Hi friends, how are you doing? It's another beautiful Sabbath day. It's May the 1st and it's a lovely day. Just wanted to show you a little something. See this clearing back here? I chopped that down one day so we could have room to move furniture. And I wanted to show you my plants. I've got a tomato plant growing here. And there's all my other plants. I think you can see there's the tomato plant at the other end. And there's that divided fence. And we are the only ones with a divided fence like that. So I just wanted to show you, see how you're doing. I'm wearing my horse shirt, Wild Spirit. Got a few years for my birthday. I like horses. Time is getting closer to us moving into our new place. There are no trees behind us, so I don't know if I can keep on, if there's a good place I can keep on sharing. It'll be in a neighborhood, so it's not as private. As you can see from my last video, the trees have grown up. You know, it's spring, still spring, officially spring until June the 20th. It'll be the first day of summer. But I wanted to do another video about craftiness. Last year when I did my first video, it was right after the tornado had come through and some people lost their homes, and I think a few people might have lost their lives. And it was pretty traumatic, and that's when I started and they did the shutdown. Well, they've kind of opened back up. In fact, my husband and I have been back to church. This was our third week. We went the weekend of Easter. Excuse me. We also got some bigger chairs. It has 2 cup holders instead of 1. So you can sit back out here on the deck with your water bottle in one, which I've got one, and your phone in another, or silverware. We've had a couple of picnics back here already. We are going to miss it, but this is one of the only things we will miss. But so we have been back to church. We're still wearing masks. They're still meeting in the gym. June the 5th, they're supposed to go back to the service. And some people can wear masks if they want, and you don't have to if you don't want to. I probably would. They still want people to keep their distance, which I've wanted that for years. I mean, it's been kind of necessary for years. But I wanted to get back and say hey and finish up these stories before we have to move, and I miss my pastoral setting. It's a lovely day. I've actually planted my 2 tomato plants. They're both cherry tomatoes, super sweet 100s hybrid. And I did them on Easter Sunday. Somebody told me that they planted their tomato plants on, sorry, something was on my foot, on Good Friday, which is 2 days before. Well, I would have done that, but we had a frost then. I actually had a frost a few weeks ago, so I had to bring all my plants back inside. But they are doing a lot better. In fact, this isn't the original plant, but this is one of them. And I always trim off their little legs for wintertime when I bring them in, so they're just one plant. And this one has grown so much. This is not the original one. This is one I potted. I've got 4 big ones like that, and then 3 smaller ones. 2 aloe vera, and then another kind of, what an aloe vera is, it's a succulent. So I have another succulent, but it's not an aloe vera. So I just wanted you to see my little world here, where I've been sharing with you for over a year. So I wanted to go ahead and finish. Today I'm going to be reading from book number 3, and the story I'm going to be reading is Go Wash in the River. And this picture is actually from it. This is Little Maid. And You can find this story in 2 Kings 5. Go wash in the river, and here's the picture. There's Little Maid. Little Maid was far, far from home. She worked for Captain and Lady Naaman. She washed dishes. She ran errands. Little Maid did everything Captain and Lady Naaman asked her to do except one thing. One thing Little Maid did not do. And they don't give her a name, but it's believed that she lived at the outskirts of Israel, and that the Syrian raiding parties came through and took captives, and she was one of them. I read another book once where they named the girl Deborah, and the book was about where she was taken captive. Now, can you guess what one thing Little Maid did not do? Captain and Lady Naaman prayed to an idol, an ugly stone idol. I think that's Baal, maybe Baal, that I having an ant friend here. Might be kind of the statue that I tried to draw one time. The idol couldn't see, it couldn't hear. When Captain and Lady Naaman asked Little Maid to pray with them to the idol, Little Maid said, "Oh no, I cannot pray to an idol. I pray to the God in heaven. He sees me. He hears me." In fact, that kind of reminds me of the sermon today. It was about the golden calf. The Israelites worshiped the golden calf. And the pastor was saying that gods that you make, they can't take you anywhere. You have to carry them. They are a burden. So that's interesting that I should choose to read this story today on the day of that. One morning when Little Maid took Lady Naaman her breakfast, Lady Naaman was crying. "Why do you cry?" asked Little Maid. "Captain Naaman is sick. He has leprosy spots. The doctors cannot make him well." I don't know what she's bringing her, but it's steaming hot. And you can see Captain Naaman outside the window. He's talking maybe with a general or one of his friends. And in Jesus' time, when Jesus came around, the people that had leprosy had to go and live in a colony. They couldn't live with their families anymore. They had to move away. "I know someone," said Little Maid, "who can make Captain Naaman well. If he will go to the prophet at my home, far, far away, the prophet will know what to do to make him well." Lady Naaman told Captain Naaman what Little Maid said. She was talking to him. See, he's got those white spots on him. What she was being was a little missionary in where she was, even though she wasn't at home anymore. "I will go see the prophet," said Captain Naaman. "I will take him presents." Captain Naaman rode in his best chariot. He drove his fastest horses. Men on horseback rode along behind the chariot, probably his bodyguards. At the turn of the road, Captain Naaman waved goodbye to Lady Naaman. He waved goodbye to Little Maid. And they are waving to him. And he's down on the road with his buddies. His entourage, they'd call it now. You can see the couple of horses or donkeys with the presents on it. Captain Naaman was under the impression that there was a person that would heal him. But you and I know who really is going to heal Captain Naaman. The prophet saw Captain Naaman and his men coming down the road. He had heard about Captain Naaman's sickness. He sent a man to meet him and tell him what to do. "Tell Captain Naaman," said the prophet, "to go wash in the river Jordan 7 times, and he will be well." And do you know what prophet this is? There's his servant he sent out. It's not Elijah, it's Elisha. Elijah did a few kind of what you'd say bombastic miracles, and then he was taken to heaven in a fiery chariot. And Elisha had asked that he'd get a double portion of the spirit that was on Elijah. And Elijah said, if you see me taken away, then you will get the double portion. And he saw him taken away, sure enough. And he was able to do so many more miracles. And this is one of them. But he didn't do it alone. He did it with God's help. Captain Naaman said to his men, does the prophet think I am dirty? Does he think I need a bath? I will not wash in that muddy river. Captain Naaman was angry, very angry, because the prophet told him to go wash in the river. I will go home, said Captain Naaman. There's the servant telling him, and he doesn't look happy, does he? And here's his bodyguard friends. He says in the Bible, if you read it in the story there, that there was cleaner rivers in Syria, Damascus, where he was from. Abana and Pharpar, I think, were the names of the rivers. Captain Naaman started home. The men on horseback rode up close beside him. They said to him, if the prophet had asked you to do some big thing, would you have done it? Why won't you do this little thing? Why don't you go wash in the river? Captain Naaman drove slower. At last he turned off the road and drove down toward the river. And the guys are going to stay up there with the presents. And there he goes to the river. If you had a bad disease, if you had something that wasn't curable, like AIDS or cancer or some heart trouble or something, and somebody told you to go wash in a dirty river and you would be well, you would want to do it, wouldn't you? I think I would, because that's really simple. I mean, it's a dirty river, but on the other hand, you'd be cured. The river was muddy, but Captain Naaman waded out into it. If that's the worst thing it wouldn't be too bad. He dipped down under the water. Then he looked at his hands and his arms. The leprosy spots were still there. Captain Naaman dipped under the water again, but the leprosy spots were still there. He dipped again. The spots were still there. His men on the riverbank watched anxiously as he dipped again and again and again. But always the spots were there, and they were as large as ever. You remember how many times Elisha said to dip under? Looks like the horse is trying to be in the picture there. These guys, they want to know what's going to happen. The worst thing that'll happen will be that he won't be cured. And he'll go home. But, at least he's having a try. He's taking it on faith. His friends had faith and they told him, go ahead and do it. Captain Naaman dipped under the water the 7th and last time. And the spots, you think the spots were still there? The spots were gone! Look at him. Spot free. Captain Naaman looked at his hands. He looked at his legs. He looked all over his body, but not a single spot could he find. The spots were all gone. He was well! The men clapped their hands and cheered. They were happy. There he is, spot free. In this other picture, right before he's going in the last time, you can see his spots on his face and his arm, but now he's clean. As fresh as a newborn baby. Captain Naaman ran splashing out of the river. He jumped into his chariot. I think he stopped to dry off and put his clothes on. He galloped his horses back to the prophet's house to tell him thank you. All of his men galloped along with him. His horses look happy. So do the guys. And see, Captain Naaman's all clean. Now he's going to race away. And look what happened to me. I'm cured. You can bet he was a lot happier. Captain Naaman bowed low before the prophet and thanked him. He offered him the presents he had brought. But the prophet said, I cannot take the presents. I did not make you well. It was the God in heaven who made you well. He's got one guy to hold the horses, and he's bowing low. These guys are bringing the gold or silver or whatever. And this guy's bringing the clothes. And Elisha won't take it because he knew that he didn't do it. You see his servant? At that time, Elisha had a servant and his name was Gehazi. And Gehazi went running after Naaman went home. And after Naaman started toward home, I should say. And Naaman looked back and he saw him running and he said, "Hey, what's going on? Let's stop." And Gehazi lied to Naaman, and he said that some people, some sons of the prophets had come to visit Elisha, and Elisha needed some money and some clothes. So Naaman said, "Okay, well, take double." And so he took some stuff with some friends, some of the helpers, and he took this stuff and he hid it, and then he went to Elisha, and Elisha knew what he had done because God had showed him. He said, "Didn't I go with you when you ran after Naaman's chariot?" He said, the leprosy that was on Naaman will now be on you. And there's another story later on where Gehazi is talking to the king of Israel, and he is leprous. He is no longer Elisha's servant because he couldn't hang around with Elisha and go around all those people. I don't know how he visited the king when he's supposed to be in a leper colony, but he was talking to the king and telling him about some of the miracles that happened. And Elisha had a different servant. But I think it might have put some thought into Naaman's head, thinking, okay, Elisha just told me that he wasn't the one that cured me. His God in heaven did. And yet his servant comes running after him telling me that Elisha needs this stuff. So it might have made him kind of wonder. And either way, what Gehazi had done was wrong. And he was punished, probably for the rest of his life. Captain Naaman and his men hurried home. Lady Naaman and Little Maid were watching the road. Captain Naaman waved to them. He drove faster. When he came near, he shouted, "I am well! I am well!" Look at him. He's so excited versus how he left and how he was when he was told that he wasn't going to make it, and that the prophet told him to go take a bath, dip in the muddy water. And now he's so happy. And now when Captain and Lady Naaman prayed, they didn't pray to the idol that couldn't see and couldn't hear. They prayed to the God in heaven, and Little Maid prayed with them. "Thank you, God in heaven," prayed Captain Naaman. "Thank you for making me well." There's the town, and there they are. They chose a nice, looks like a quiet little spot on the hill to pray. Captain Naaman and his wife, Lady Naaman as they call her, and you see they're being missionaries still, because the people in the town are watching them. And that is the end of that story. We've got one more story in this book, but there's as always, there's so much more to the Bible story than just what you might read here. Here's another picture of Captain Naaman's guard friends trying to talk him into going down to the river. In the flyleaf of the book. And it's just amazing that if we just take a little faith, have a little faith in where God is trying to lead us through the people in our lives that are close to God, like the pastors of the church we may go to, or our parents, or our friends, or our siblings, or grandparents, even if you still have grandparents. But Naaman, he was desperate to be cured, and Lady Naaman, or Little Maid was the missionary that not only she didn't keep to herself, oh, Prophet Elisha is for my people, they're not for the Syrians. But she was faithful. She did her work well. And then she comforted, well, she showed them in her work, she did her work, but she did not bow down to their idols. And then she was faithful and tried to comfort her mistress and Lady Naaman, and then she told him about the prophet Elisha. And Naaman was like, hey, I'll go. And so he did. So there was a lot of faith and missionary work being done in that story. And of course, I've always loved these books. So the stories these books cover are just kind of, you know more about them because of when you go over and over these, you just remember them more. It just makes it neat. So I will let you guys go and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Make another video here in a couple of weeks. We're in May now. I think we're supposed to be able to move into our house in July, and I have about 5 more stories to read, so I'm gonna have to start reading them sooner. This was like one of the nicest days we've had so far that was warm. We had some cold weather this week. It wasn't frosted, but it was chilly, and then we had some rain. So I will try to finish up with that, and then we'll see what happens after we get moved. I don't know. So I hope you enjoyed the story and the mini tour of where I sit here and read to you. And I hope you have a blessed day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!